The topic for today's episode is 10 questions about retirement coaching with the founder of the Retirement Coaches Association. And my guest is the founder of the RCA, Robert Lora. In addition to founding the Retirement Coaches Association, Bob also leads the Certified Professional Retirement Coach designation and coursework, which helps train retirement coaches. In addition, he is also a financial advisor. He can be described as a retirement activist who is committed to changing the way people think about and prepare for every non-financial aspect of retirement. He writes nationally syndicated columns for both Forbes.com and Financial Advisor magazine. You can learn more about Bob at his website, robertlora.com, his business website, which is wealthandwellness.com, or at retirementproject.org. I will provide links to each of these sites in the transcript of the episode when it becomes available on my website, which is mylifesencore.com. So welcome, Bob. I'm glad to have you here to tell us more about the RCA and retirement coaching.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I appreciate the opportunity, Reed.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So I'm gonna kind of lump two questions together, Bob, because I think they lead into each other. And the first one is, what is the Retirement Coaches Association? And then secondly, as the founder of the organization, what led you to start the RCA and bring such a, I think it's a really experienced, very knowledgeable group and very growing group of individuals together. So how did you bring those people together?
Yeah, good question. So I started because no one else did. And I was frustrated by all the talent that was out there as I kept coming across people who were really focused on this non-financial coaching, kind of the mental, social, physical, and spiritual aspects of retirement planning instead of just more traditional financial. And as I looked around, there just wasn't anyone bringing people together. And so as I connected with more and more people, the need continued to grow. And I think, too, it was about establishing some standards and some structure, because I think the whole idea of coaching is a little fluffy for some people. They don't get it. They kind of think that, hey, Reed, I'm going to call you up. You're going to take me to a coffee shop, and in 45 minutes, you're going to solve all my problems. And that's kind of the misconception that people have about it, when it's actually much deeper, based on the latest social science and research. And people can really struggle with the transition, but you can't tell anybody, so if you ultimately get to a point where you can retire, you have enough money to not work, and you have the free time to do whatever you want, it doesn't mean it's automatically happy. And so people struggle with that loss of routine, the loss of the social interaction. But who are you going to tell? People, there's this stigma that there'd be something wrong with you if you don't love retirement. And so that's why I think it's so important to have an industry and a group of trained professionals, because that's the other important thing, is the training of the professionals. A lot of people will just go out there and call themselves a coach. They'll say I'm a retirement coach or a money coach. But it's very likely they're just trying to position themselves differently in order to sell you a financial product. We focus exclusively on the non-financial pieces. So hopefully I lumped all of that into answering the two questions.
Yep, that's good. And just as a side note, too, I wanted to mention to the audience that I've taken the Certified Professional Retirement Coaching designation, and I am part of the RCA. So what I appreciate about the fact that you brought all these people together, Bob, is the collective wisdom of the group and the opportunity to learn from people who've done this for many years, who have many years of experience doing this, including yourself. So that's what I really enjoy about.
Well, and what's interesting, what people probably don't realize is I've been doing this stuff for 12 years. And, it's finally getting to the point where people get it. People thought I was crazy or an alien, 10, 12 years ago, and I would do workshops in the non-financial part because everyone's brainwashed to think it's all money. It's all about having these right pieces set up. And I mean, this too, that doesn't happen. It doesn't just automatically transition. And again, to really detail that stuff out. And again, I think it's important, like the concept of disenfranchised grief. It means it's not being honored, so people experience that when they make this transition, and just having people understand that, normalize it, and help you process it. That's really what retirement coaching is about.
Right. So where can people learn more about the Retirement Coaches Association for both consumers who want to find out more about it, and then also maybe some people who potentially would want to become retirement coaches?
Yeah, so we got a website, retirementcoachesassociation.org.
Yep.
You can there's a Find a Coach website there. And again, we really encourage people to visit, to check that out, to reach out to a couple of coaches, because coaches can work with you over Zoom like this, on the phone, or locally in person, depending upon how you want to meet with them. I think for professionals, looking for a lot of people do kind of use this as an encore career. They've gotten into retirement themselves and they failed, or they're struggling with it. And so as they research what happened or why did this transition not take place, they want to position themselves as coaches to help other people not go through that same stuff. But we have a growing number of financial professionals that are looking for the training, a lot of therapists and counselors, a lot of HR professionals, several CEOs. And so it's really, I know as people kind of, develop in their career and kind of work towards retirement, they really want to have that impact. And it's a great place and a great way to do that.
Yep. And that's a good point too. I think for people looking for a retirement coach, it's a great place to go because you have them listed by state. Somebody can simply just click on a coach in their area, find somebody to connect with, and start the process there.
Yep.
So let's jump into retirement coaching. And as somebody who's been doing this now, like you said, for 12 years, Bob, how do you define retirement coaching, and maybe how has retirement coaching evolved in those 12 years since you started in the area?
Great question. So the way I kind of define retirement coaching is, what is it not? It's not a therapy session, so it's not like you're going to come into an office and lay on a couch, or you're not going to meet at the coffee shop and, quickly fix things. It's really about developing a written plan for the non-financial aspects of retirement. That is so critical, writing stuff down. So it's funny because when people go get a financial plan, they get a big book, they got, giant charts and graphs that lay out all these what-if scenarios. But a lot of people, as they approach retirement, they're just thinking about it. But, they've got these ideas, these vague ideas and thoughts. And so, as you know, the program we put together really focuses on creating a written plan that addresses the mental, social, physical, and spiritual. And spiritual can be scary for people because they think we're going to talk about religion, but we define spirituality as internal and external spirituality. Internal is your core values and beliefs, which everyone has. They may be attached to, a religious organization or other affiliation, but we kind of separate them out because we really want to understand what's important to you first, then work towards the mental, the physical, the social, and other aspects of it. But you need to have a written plan that addresses these key areas.
Yep, perfect. So,
and I think to your question about how has it evolved, it continues to transition. So one of the big things we do in the certification is we talk about positive psychology, and that's an important movement too, because it really, several years, a couple decades ago, they really started to look at psychology of how do we help people thrive, and just instead of just taking someone who's doing bad and just get them to a point where they're just doing better. So positive psychology looks at how do you thrive, and so we use tools associated with that as well, and even behavioral economics is going to be part of the program coming up. And so it continues to evolve, and it continues to be based on evidence-based science and research.
Yep, perfect. So what is something that people, and it could be just the general public, somebody transitioning into retirement, or also could be people who work with or can assist people making the transition to retirement, like financial advisors and HR professionals. What are some of the things that these people might not know about retirement coaching, or perhaps some of the misconceptions? And I think you may have alluded to some of these previously, but what are some of the things that those people just don't know about retirement coaching or should know?
Well, I think for the retirement's a lot like when you get a new phone or a computer. You kind of, when you go to set it up, you click the default button, right? And it kind of sets itself up. Then you adjust along the way. If something didn't set up the way you want, you fix it. People do the same thing with retirement planning. They sort of assume that having enough money and the right asset allocation is the default option, and everything else will work out. but it doesn't. And again, there's a lot of just misconceptions about what real life is going to be like. And one of the things that we do in our program as part of our process is have people write down, what's a perfect day and a perfect week look like? They've never done it. And they've got these vague thoughts and ideas about, oh, well, retirement's going to be like this and this. And then they get there and there's a major disconnect. And so really just taking the time to think about what does morning, afternoon, and evening look like? What does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday look like? Because no one's written that stuff out. And one of my favorite statistics is I think it's something like 60% of people who try to escape from prison are caught within 24 hours. And I think 90% are caught within a week. And the reason for that is because they spend so much time focusing on getting out that once they get there, they don't have a plan. They don't know what to do. And it's the same thing for retirement. People just are so focused on getting to that finish line, to stepping out that door, but then they don't have a plan. And that's really what retirement coaching is designed to do, is to help people make that transition into everyday life.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And I think, just to summarize that, it's the whole idea of planning, right? It's creating the plan, writing it down, following it, all of that.
Well, and I think to your point, like, it is just about awareness and conversations. And again, this is why I think it's important to work with a trained professional, because they've gone through this stuff. They've talked to other people. And it's really what a lot of people are looking for is feedback and information. And it's a process. And it's about having multiple conversations, especially there's a huge opportunity with couples, because each couple has their own thoughts and ideas about retirement, but they haven't. Maybe they've expressed some of them, but they surely haven't written them down. And that's in the workshops and other things. That's the funny part, is when one of the spouses looks over at the other and sees something totally unexpected, it catches them off guard. It's a good process for couples to go through.
Yeah, lots of times they haven't shared their thoughts with the other spouse.
Right.
And that's the first time they've done that.
Right.
So the members of the Retirement Coaches Association wrote a book that came out earlier this year called The Retirement Challenge. And both of us wrote a chapter in the book. And your chapter was titled Retirement 2030 and Beyond. So give us a little bit about maybe what you talked about in that chapter, Bob. And then also, what do you think retirement and retirement coaching will look like in the not too distant future in the year 2030?
Yeah. So I think a lot of things are already falling into place. Obviously, I looked out, 10, 12, 15 years or so. But what you're really seeing is this evolution where people are getting smarter about their careers, and they're doing planning further in advance. It used to be people really wouldn't start retirement planning until they're 3 to 5 years away, and some people a year away. Yep. I see that transitioning where people are getting further away, 10 to 15 years away, and are starting to plan out their life. They don't want to be a slave to their job. They want to have an impact. They want to find work that they like. And so I think people are starting to, see some of that, where again, they don't want to get to age 65 and say, gosh, I regret just grinding out 30 years at the same place, doing a job I didn't enjoy. And so I think people will start to see that benefit. I think another, with our aging population, on the scary side of things, what I call medical kidnapping, where again, I think because if a senior, especially is in mental decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, you set up a group home, all of a sudden you're receiving their Social Security check, you're billing Medicare, Medicaid, they may have a pension coming in. And so I see an opportunity, unfortunately, of trafficking in those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So again, just as a society, as we're aging, something to be aware of. And then I think a couple other just important trends will be in the workplace. Much more phased retirement or job sharing. It's pretty common for like teachers, if they get pregnant, to kind of job share a classroom. So, after they have their baby, they can kind of go back and forth. I know that's pretty stereotypical, but they job share a classroom. So I see that kind of evolving in the workplace for retirees, where, again, let's say a couple guys reach retirement age and they don't fully want to retire, but they can stay there kind of part-time and kind of work through it.
Yep. Good. So the RCA is coming out with another book or books here in the near future. And so can you give us a little sneak preview of what the book or books, or the topics of the book or books are, and then maybe when these books might be available
Yeah, we're excited about it. So we decided this year, we did the retirement challenge last year, which you had a great chapter on resiliency in there. This year we're doing two different books. The first one's Out of the Box Retirement.
Okay.
And I think it's an important topic, and what we're really trying to do is share real life stories and real life people and how they made a successful transition. I think there's this kind of high bar of what people say retirement is going to be like, and you'll see news stories about the 75-year-old who climbed some mountain, or the guy who's handing out $100 bills on the corner. That's all great, but what are some real people? How do they make this transition? How are they replacing their work identity? How are they filling their time? How are they making an impact? And so we're excited just to offer kind of an inside look at retirement, if you will, and an out of the box, instead of this robot, like, okay, I worked for 30 years, I saved 10%, my asset allocation is 60-40, I'm ready for retirement. Well, not really. And so what are some creative ways we can approach and look at retirement? So that's the first book. The second book, I think, is equally important, and it's really it's focused on the HR department. It's focused on corporate America.
Yep.
You really have to rebrand the culture around retirement. So much is focused on retirement age, and we have this age-based program where people turn 62 or 65 and everyone's wondering, well, are they retiring or not? But people who are 62, 65, even 70 aren't like they were 20 or 30 years ago. They're ready to work through it. They like their work. They find value in work. And so we really have to change that corporate culture around retirement to really help transform the industry.
Good. Those will be fascinating books. I look forward to both of them coming out. Any ETA on when those books will be?
Yeah, we are. And your show is kind of getting the first preview, so I haven't talked about it with anybody else. So we get the exclusive there.
Good.
We're going to be we're shooting for September, so we got lots of work ahead of us. We've already had people turn in their chapters, but hopefully we'll have that, and it'll come out as an ebook first on Amazon. Then we'll get the hard copies out there as well.
Okay, good. I'll inform the readers and the listeners too as we get closer to when those books come out.
Great.
So talking again about retirement coaching, if somebody wanted to engage a retirement coach, what's the typical process when somebody works with a retirement coach, and what can people expect as an outcome from having a retirement coach work with them?
So I think a couple important things. There are different types of coaches, so different types of training. And so and this is one of the things I hope to have with the RCA is formalize a process for everyone. But it can range from some people using assessments or other things to engaging in one-on-one conversation. With the individuals we train and kind of where I take things and where I suggest the focus be, it's really, so how does the process start? There's a number of ways to start. Just really having an open conversation about either your thoughts or feelings about retirement, or if you're already retired, kind of how things are going. We've got a number of quizzes. We've got a retirement wellness quiz that, again, looks at the mental, social, physical, spiritual, and financial pieces. It's 25 questions, 5 questions for each category. And it's an easy way to start to identify where you're at in each area and which areas may need focus. I prefer a formula or a process to take people through. So we have a retirement wellness workbook with a series of worksheets that, again, addresses each one of those key areas. And a big part of the process, it's more about discovery and awareness, because the power of retirement coaching has nothing to do with really what I put together or what I say. But for the first time, it's the opportunity for these people haven't been asked these questions. So for the first time, they're thinking about these things in a new way, and then we're inviting them to write it down. And that's a very powerful process. And so it opens up a lot of eyes and a lot of opportunities. And that's really what it's about, to say, hey, if you want to excel and thrive in this next phase of your life, here's the areas that you want to be prepared in, and here's what you need to know about each area.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. I think it's really about providing guidance and also accountability.
Yeah.
Some people.
Well, and to that point, like if you think about working with a personal trainer, there's the accountability, there's the structure,
Yeah.
Then there's the feedback. And those are, and anything, whether you're doing executive coaching, career coaching, you know, helping someone work out or exercise, it's those three key things. And that's what retirement coaching is.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. Good analogy. So what are a few of the biggest challenges, pitfalls, or regrets from your experience that you see people make or have during the transition into retirement?
Socially, I think
Yeah.
it's the biggest thing is that, and especially again, stereotypically, guys, we really identify with our roles at work, and
Yep.
we really identify with our colleagues. The biggest mistake people make is they don't take the relationships out of the workplace. And so whether you're 1, 3, or 5 years away from retirement, if you really get along with some guys and like and appreciate them, you got to find ways to, whatever it is, go to a car show, go golfing, you know, take a night out, you know, just something that's away from the workplace is really to make that trend. And it's across the board. I mean, it happens to women as well, but I think women tend to have more roles. They seem to adapt to different pieces, but guys tend to just be lost. And then a lot of guys just, they don't really, no one's really talked to them about what does it take to be a good friend? Who are the people you want to surround yourself with? How do you invest and pour into somebody? And again, I think the interesting thing about retirement is people think they retire from work and they leave it behind, but it just reorients your work. You still have to work at things, and friendships and your social network is one of the things you have to work on.
Yeah, that's good. And that goes back to your conversation about people continuing to work and the benefits of continuing to work in what we call retirement is that whole social aspect.
Well, and I think too, I think part of the problem is people vilify work like it's this bad thing. Like leisure is good. Well, yeah, if you don't like your job, that's true. But a lot of people do like their job, and there are some benefits that work provides that really, I don't think people give enough credit. I mean, people can grieve the loss of routine, you know, because they get up, they have purpose, they get in their car, they walk into work, they're greeted by people, there's things, there's deadlines, and all of a sudden all that stuff's gone. They may not be prepared to replace that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to make that change when somebody's been doing that for 40 plus years.
Right, right.
So question number 10, Bob, is again, from your experience doing retirement coaching with clients, what have you seen change during this time, or maybe shift in terms of either people's perception and of retirement and that transition, or of retirement coaching?
It's becoming more mainstream. That's the biggest thing, is that the big transition is people are getting it. They're starting to realize they need to really think about and plan for these non-financial pieces. It hasn't reached the height that it needs to yet. And again, that's what the RCA is about, is really pushing that agenda that people need a written plan for these non-financial aspects. They need a plan for everyday life and retirement. Money is important, but it's secondary to everything else, because I say all the time, running out of money pales in comparison to running out of family, friends, good health, and time.
Yep.
And also, I think people find is that if you take care of the personal stuff first, the money stuff falls into place. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't take care of the money stuff and hope everything else falls into place. You do the opposite. Put your personal stuff in place. And so I think the biggest thing that we'll see coming up as a result of all this is financial professionals will either be trained as certified retirement coaches, or they will work with an individual who is specifically trained to kind of guide people through it. And again, the process will be, retirement planning will have these 5 key areas. It won't just be the financial piece.
Right. And I think a lot of it that's bringing this to the forefront is the whole topic of longevity, right? People are realizing that if they live a happy, healthy life until they're 85 or 90 or beyond, that if you stop working at 60 or 65, you've got a long time to figure out what you're going to do. Otherwise, you're going to go downhill pretty quickly.
Well, and I think I wrote an article at Forbes about it. It says it's taking longer for people to feel old. You know, so it really used to, you know, when Social Security first came out in 1935, you know, a life expectancy was, I think, 61.8. So you were technically supposed to die before you got it. Well, 30% increase in longevity says, okay, now how does that look different? So people are living longer, but they're healthy, active, and able longer. They're not
Yes.
incapacitated for longer. And so it does take a lot of planning. My math says that Social Security age should be 80, based on the changes in longevity.
Right.
That changes how you perceive someone who's 65 or even 70, because they're not retirement age at that age. They're still very capable, willing, interested. They have the knowledge and the resources. And so it's a struggle for people to really kind of get there and not be sure what to do. But again, that's what retirement coaching is all about.
Yep. Perfect. So before we wrap up our conversation, Bob, is there anything else you'd like to share about either the RCA or about retirement coaching, or anything that I didn't touch on that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I just think it's important to, just invite people to go to the website to check it out, get plugged into the community. We're looking for leading voices to kind of really push this agenda, because we want to make an impact in people's lives. A lot of people waste the first 2 to 3 years of retirement trying to figure it out. So if we can curb that and really help people get the most out of it by developing this written plan with this process, that's the message we want to get out there. And so whether you're a consumer who wants to share that with other people, or a professional who wants to get plugged in, we just would invite you to do so.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And I will include links to all of those sites on the episode transcript. So thank you, Bob, for joining me and sharing with the audience the Retirement Coaches Association and retirement coaching. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Until next time, have a great week.